Good morning, everyone. This is update for June 8, 2022, day 105 of the war, end of the date update. Today we're going to talk, one of the sort of general topics is about how Russia is trying to run occupied regions, basically about the administration in the occupied regions, and then we're going to do walks through the front line. So let's actually start with Donetsk region. So Russian government today installed sort of new government of the Donetsk region here, and even though the Russian troops don't control 100% of the territory, they control about 55% of the landmass here. However, that's a very interesting sort of point, because the new sort of administrators or the government officials of this Donetsk region, they are all coming from non-military backgrounds. So the head of this Russian government there has background in the Ministry of Industry and Trade. Then another person has background from Ministry of Construction in Russia, and the other person was vice governor of the Lipetsk region of Russia, so which is kind of like somewhere here neighboring, relatively close to Ukraine, basically. And even more interesting is the head of this government. He's actually from Ukraine. His last name looks Ukrainian, so this is just for the optics. It's apparently it's kind of like a Russian sort of government tries to achieve two goals here. One is he's totally loyal to Russia, but then for the locals he appears to be sort of like, oh, he's from here, even though he's from Dnipro. So this is he's from this city here, so he's gonna be governing this region, obviously center in Donetsk. The only part that Russian government didn't quite understand, and that's what tells us that they really don't understand the local sort of local politics in Ukraine, is that this two regions, Dnipro region and Donetsk region, had extremely intense rivalry, and both political elites from these regions were always fighting with each other. Including if they would sort of rise to the power in Kyiv or even in the Soviet Union, there was intense rivalry with sort of negative connotation to that word. And sort of, so in a way, they put in charge of this Donetsk region someone who would be viewed as actually not their person from the regional perspective, because he's from the rival region. So, this is just kind of one sort of data point about, okay, Russian government tries to play this game of like creating some kind of loyalty in local population, but then they don't quite understand the regional politics, and they still make mistakes there. So this was the Donetsk region. Now we're gonna move to Zaporizhzhia region, and here is very sort of, well, not interesting, but a very telling situation where the governor of the Zaporizhzhia region basically switched sides, moved to the Russian side, and now the governor of the Russian occupied part of Zaporizhzhia region, with a center in Melitopol right now. So basically, it kind of tells you about the quality of the political leadership that Ukraine has in these regions. Now let's move to Kherson region here, and here situation is also very similar, very interesting. So the member of Ukrainian parliament from the presidential party, from the Ukrainian president party, he basically in April switched sides and he moved to the Russian side, and so now he obviously works with the Russian military administration, And what he did, he organized meeting with the local farmers, so local farmers, and then he invited to the meeting a deputy head of the Russian president administration. His name is Kirienko. He's been in Russian power for past 20 plus years. And so basically the Kirienko, when he came, the message was very clear. Kherson region will be integrated into Russia, and Russia here is for good. You don't need to worry. Start sort of cooperating with us, and so on. So this is obviously for sure. This meeting is more organized, just sort of like for media, just for the optics, and to kind of like put the message in the media. Okay, this is going to be our region. We're going to integrate. We're not going to, give it up or return to Ukraine. Doesn't mean that the farmers really going there. This was just sort of puppet show, basically, from a farmer's perspective, because there is a lot of, evidence when a Russian military administration is basically taking away grain from the grain storage and transporting it to Crimea. Which they actually, this is not from, Ukrainian side, which would be sort of, okay, we can question because, okay, it's obviously biased to extent, but this is actually factual because it's shown in the Russian media, right? They show and they actually put the titles in the media. Oh, okay, here we're taking grain from Kherson region and bringing it to Crimea, and then it's probably going to get exported from Sevastopol. So basically that's a situation. And so as you can see, there's a lot of problem in Ukrainian political leadership and political top, as there are quite a bit of people who defect to Russia, and this is who openly defect to Russia, right? There's a lot of who sort of quietly working for Russia and being at the top leadership positions in Ukraine, including in Ukrainian military as well. So that's one big, huge problem that Ukraine is facing as a whole, I would say. Another interesting data point, and again, this is probably going to be very debatable. A lot of people will disagree with this, and we can always debate, and I'll actively participate in the comment section. So there was another polling of the Russian population today, where 75% support, Russian president and war in Ukraine. So we can debate, but we would say that there is still definitely strong support within Russian population of this war. Maybe it's not 75. We don't know. Obviously, this poll is obviously biased. It's not totally fair, but it's the way it feels. It's that there is some majority is supporting this war, right? Otherwise, the soldiers would not go to the war and would not die, right? Because they don't, there is not terribly much to gain in this war unless you believe in propaganda and you think that you're achieving something important by fighting this war. Now let's go to the front line, and let's do our typical clockwise fashion, starting from the very north. Again, there was artillery shelling along the border here in this region from both sides. As always, intensity remains more or less the same. No significant changes in intensity. Now let's move to Kharkiv area. The situation here, again, very stable. The same situation. Ukrainian troops are trying to push out Russians without much success. Russian troops are probably at this point more or less satisfied with the buffer they have and content that with the current sort of balance of power they cannot increase the buffer, so they are more on defensive, and Ukrainian side is more on unsuccessful offensive side, but it's all low intensity. So this is not like any kind of major offense or anything. This is just as we said, like less than a company size skirmishes, and that's about it. Now let's move to Izyum bridgehead, and well, yeah, Liman is gone at this point, so let's just look what's going on there. This is high-level schematic overview. What's going on there? Essentially, we have 5 Russian brigades here, and as we discussed before, several issues before, at least 2 of these brigades, I believe 64th and 38, are in pretty bad shape in terms of manpower, meaning they're not like all gone. So all of that, as was explained many times, essentially the unit is sort of split into 2 halves: actual battle, sort of the soldiers who fight on the battlefield, and then support, right? So support is in the Soviet army is about plus minus 50%. So when we're referring that they're in pretty bad shape, that really means only with respect to the battle part of the unit, right? So, but anyways, the fighting keeps going there. Let's actually look what's going on. So the situation on the bridgehead is stable. Very intense fighting in this forest that we call Hurgan Forest here, where the Russian side is trying to kind of push through it, push to the south. Again, fighting in Dovhenka, where it's also kind of like foresty area. So basically, this kind of foresty area, essentially, this is fighting here. This helps Ukrainian defenses here. Obviously, it's easier to fight in the forest than in open field. So that's situation there. Then some artillery shelling here at Ukrainian positions in Bogorodichne and straight south of Svitlodarsk, with obviously the idea is soften Ukrainian defenses eventually, not right now. And then again, some attempts to attack here, Raihorodok, this village here. Again, the same idea to soften defenses, because the next objective here is going to be this town Slovyansk, as you can see here. We believe that sort of frontal attack and attack to the idea of storming this town is essentially suicidal, and we don't think that the Russian command will try to do. They will try to basically create some kind of form of encirclement to force Ukrainian troops out of here. So as you can imagine, the best one would have been is attacking towards Bervinkova, and that's really the most damaging pass for Ukrainian side. But what Russian troops are pursuing at this point is kind of like more closer sort of loop here, straight west of Slovyansk, simply because they don't have enough resources for sort of deep encirclement. So they trying to do more like sort of shallow encirclement, which we don't think that's going to happen regardless, because there's simply not enough resources right now, not enough manpower. Now let's look at what's going on around Severodonetsk. So the northern shoulder is, as always, quiet. We're not gonna, in the future, we're not gonna even mention it, because unless there is something going on there. Then there is fighting in Severodonetsk. Ukrainian troops still holding on to that industrial chemical area. Basically, as we discussed many times, the essence why Ukrainian troops managed to do that is because they have artillery support from Lysychansk area and a little bit west of Lysychansk, and they have excellent observation and view on their eastern side of the river, which is here, because the western side is about 120-150 meters above the eastern side of the river. So you can easily correct artillery fire, and you really don't need UAVs to do that, because you directly observe almost immediately. So it's very quick reaction to your actions, basically. So for now, we believe that Ukrainian army can hold this area. It's probably cost some lives, but at the same time, it also probably drains Russian resources quite a bit more. because as we discussed, it's easier to defend in industrial area, especially have a lot of rubble. So it basically forces Russian command to keep Russian troops here, and it prevents them from bringing them to Popasna area, which is now the focus of the Russian command and the Russian army and Russian leadership. So there was intense fighting starting from this Yakovlivka village to Bilohorivka, Verstove, and then Mykolaievka. So basically, this is the axis of the Russian attack, which is obviously very clear. They just want to break through here, continue, and they just in a hope to close the encirclement by simply moving towards north. So far they were not successful today. We definitely know that both sides actually extremely stretched, and it's hard to predict which way it's gonna fall. It's really 50-50 situation, and it really depends on the will of both armies, and that's whichever has stronger will, that's the one will prevail here. So let's actually look a little bit at situation, just a reminder, in Severodonetsk. So essentially fighting is going on again, as we discussed, in this industrial area, in this chemical plant, Azot. And this is the sort of lifeline for Ukrainian army. This is the only surviving bridge that supports the logistically this Ukrainian troops here. As a reminder, the Azov bridge Russian troops managed to destroy with 240 millimeter mortar, but that mortar actually then in turn was destroyed by Ukrainian troops, and so far they were not able to bring in other mortars and cable that with the same capability. Then let's now look a little bit at this situation around Popasna. So this is kind of like little tiny salient around village Nirkova that Russian troops captured a few days ago, where the Russian general died. So far no progress from here. Again, this is the area of the most intense fighting. There are some rumors, unconfirmed, that Ukrainian troops managed to push a little bit more Russian troops, but really we're talking about 500 meters back and forth. So we're pretty sure that on a daily sort of basis, it's 500 meters Ukrainian troops pushed Russian troops today, and then tomorrow maybe Russian troops will push Ukrainians 300 meters, so 600 meters. So it's basically like push and pull again here, with no really meaningful changes of the front line, but it's very extremely intense fighting, and obviously it leads to a lot of casualties in this area. Then Russian troops continue to put pressure here, just to kind of prevent keep Ukrainian command and Ukrainian troops stress and not being able to pull reserves to this area, where this is main axis of attack, obviously here. This is just kind of like closer look at the situation around Nirkova and Mykolaievka, how it happened. Now let's look at the entire Popasna salient. The southern part is stable here, where the Wagner mercenaries operate. No new progress. Ukrainian side more or less holds on here. In our opinion, probably because the 30th Brigade, which defends here, is in pretty good shape in terms of they essentially didn't fight since the beginning of the war. They were on the front line all the time here, but they actually were sort of lucky in the way that this front line was literally dead, and only artillery shelling was happening, which obviously, you don't lose, you don't lose your manpower when, well, you do lose, but it's extremely minor, especially if you have very good positions, which they did here around Svitlodarsk. We discussed that. So, but in any case, this brigade is probably in one of the better shapes. And another important part of this is that this is sort of more like a professional army brigade, sort of like this At this point, it consists mostly from the soldiers who were fighting for a while. So this is not just fresh conscripts who had some training. Some of them have really bad training. And there is a general problem with inconsistency of training on the Ukrainian side. So some units get decent training. Some of that get pretty poor training. Some of that it can get even like zero training. So which kind of tells that there is quite a bit of organizational mess in terms of preparation of conscripts in general on the Ukrainian side. Now let's as always, Russian side is trying to engage First Army Corps to help Wagner mercenaries to kind of create pressure from the other side and force basically withdrawal from here. But so far they don't have any luck. The rest of the front line is really kind of like essentially frozen. There were some weak attacks against this village, New York, without much success. We kind of actually a little puzzled why it's attracting so much attention, because it makes much more sense to continue attacks from this Novobakhmutivka salient and sort of more towards towards west or even northwest, and then kind of exploit the opportunity. But nevertheless, Russian side is continuing trying these attacks towards New York. It's not like intense, like it's not like, but it's just probably more to keep Ukrainian troops sort of engaged so that they cannot pull reserves from this area to Popasna area. Essentially, that's the essence probably of what they're doing right now. And then also what we're learning, that essentially majority of the artillery from from the First Army Corps, not from the First Army Corps, but basically Russian regular artillery that was supporting First Army Corps, was pulled to help in the Popasna area. So basically, as you can see, it's not only infantry units, but like everything that can be pulled is being pulled from non-active stretches of the front line to create critical advantage around this Popasna area. This is closer look to this New York, Novobakhmutivka, Avdiyivka area, and this Donetsk International Airport. Now let's look what's going on at the Zaporizhzhia front line. Here everything is stable, no changes, nothing really new to report, except for, as we mentioned yesterday, that 1st Tank Brigade is somewhere around here. But since it's sort of known to the Russian side, so probably chances of there any kind of offensive here are probably at this point close to zero. This is how the Zaporizhzhia front line looks at the high level. Again, there's probably no changes since about end of April here. It's being stable and just artillery shelling, reconnaissance action and like low-level skirmishes, but really nothing major going on here. Now let's move to Kherson bridgehead. Again, situation here has stabilized in a way, in terms of Ukrainian side managed to keep small bridgehead here around Davydiv Brid. Let's actually look a little bit closer. This is the area. There are a bunch of villages here. So this is like small area where Ukrainian troops managed to keep the bridgehead. We believe this was evacuated. We still don't have good confirmation about this Bruskinsky, but essentially otherwise everything here is frozen. In our opinion, both sides don't have resources to continue fighting here. Even though we see those T-62s, we have not seen them anywhere on the battlefield anywhere. So remains to be seen how they will be used. But in any case, we believe that this is criminal to actually send soldiers or crews in those tanks on the front line. That's it for today. And then actually small announcement, I will not be able to do update tomorrow because I'll be traveling. So the next update probably will be on Friday. If there is anything important or urgent, I will post it on the community board, so you can, if there is any updates, you can see them. Anything urgent. It doesn't seem that anything is gonna happen so far. Things are, in a way, in our opinion, is more closer to, like, well, if not dying off, but except the only active location of this Popasna area, but so far it doesn't look like a Russian side is able to create, has enough resources to continue throwing into the battle to achieve, new territorial gains there. Okay, thanks again for watching, and until Friday, bye bye.